Usually it's the Ultimate Brown Show at 5 o'clock on Fridays, but G. Bush had some personal business to attend to, so I invited three of my best friends from across the interweb to talk a little Browns for you guys. So instead of pre-recording the Ultimate Fan Show, guess what? It's coming at you live, and it starts right now. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Mikey McNuggets joined by Evan419, Roger, and David. And David is from Melbourne, right, David? Let me make sure I get it correct. From Melbourne. He's got the best accent. So, Roger, Evan, just know there's no way you're going to be the fan favorite today because you can't beat an Australian accent. Evan was on the first fan show, and he clamored to come back on because he said he had to address something in specific. And Roger had sent me some great stats following the Browns' Week 3 loss to the Giants on some of their third down conversions. So I think we got a great panel to break down the upcoming Commanders-Browns game on Sunday. So, guys, let's get right to it. But first, Roger, how you doing, man? Thanks for joining us here on the Ultimate Fan Show.
It's a pleasure, McNuggets. Happy to be here. Evan, shout out to you. David, nice meeting you. It's going to be a great show today, and I'm excited to talk some Cleveland football.
We're going to save David for last because, like I said, once he opens his mouth, there's no going back. But, Evan, how you doing, man? Welcome back for your second appearance here on the Ultimate Cleveland Fan Show.
Good, Mikey. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you welcoming me back so I can take my stand that I have to.
Yeah, well, we'll give you your chance to stand on your platform and your soapbox. And, David, how you doing, man? It's been a while since you've been on UCSS, and thrilled to have our first international guest on the Ultimate Cleveland Fan Show.
It's an honor to be here. Good morning, boys. How are you? I hope you're all well. Good morning. It's Saturday morning at 7:05 here in Melbourne. It's a little bit of a time jump, but it was nice when Mikey and I were chatting the other day that it all worked out well. I'm on my days off from my job on a rotating 4-on, 4-off shift cycle. And it's a nice cruisy Saturday morning with no kids' sport, which is fantastic because they're on holidays at the moment.
It is crazy. It's Saturday for David. It's Friday for the three of us here in Ohio. So listen, the Browns bring people from around the globe together, and that's why we love, despise, hate, cherish everything about the Browns all in one. Roger, I want to start with you because Evan told me he had something very specific he needed to address on today's show. So I'm going to let Evan be the anchor of the first part of our show today, and that is the discourse following the game against the Raiders. Everyone agrees that Deshaun, or I don't want to say everyone, I want to speak for everybody. A large portion of Browns fans and the national media believe that was Deshaun's best game against the Raiders. Still not enough to win. They only mustered up 10 offensive points, but he had taken steps forward. You play the blame game. We do it every Monday after a Browns loss. A lot of the blame started getting pointed towards Kevin Stefanski this week. Fair, not fair, and how you feeling after a 1-3 start, Roger?
Well, to start off, I don't think any of us are happy with a 1-3 start. We all, preseason going into the season, looking at the early half, the first quarter, I believe we all thought these were high probability wins for us. Right now, we've underperformed. Speaking on Deshaun Watson, I do believe Sunday against the Raiders was his best game. He was more decisive with the football. I like to see that. Watching film from the previous games, he was hesitant, and we left a lot of plays, a lot of yards on the field, a lot of big plays with his lack of anticipation. But I do believe that he can turn it around. I believe that the Browns can turn it around. So with that being said, I'm excited for Sunday.
David, do you feel like Kevin Stefanski was fairly criticized for the team's performance on Sunday and through the first month of the season, or unfairly criticized and blamed for some of their struggles so far?
I think fairly. We've all seen it throughout his tenure that we've had periods of, and you guys talked about it on the main show, fantastic scripted plays. We've scored, I think, in the vast majority of the last 3 seasons on our opening drives. After that, it goes to water. We're often 3 and out, and Rog summed it up beautifully. He has looked indecisive. I'm wondering whether or not he needs the same LASIK surgery that our backup had a few years ago, because he looks like he's lost a step, and he definitely doesn't look as confident as picking out his passes and going through his reads as he should be. And I'm surprised, to be brutally honest, he hasn't been picked off more. But as for Kevin, I don't think his play calling, but I don't know, and you and I have spoken about this privately, Mikey, that I don't know that it's always Kevin. I don't know who necessarily, as we say, is the puppet master, is pulling the strings on who's allowed to call what play when and what they're going for. And if they are really overusing analytics, and I know Bull will probably make comment if he ever watches the show that, I'm a fan of analytics to a point, right? But we have to be sensible about it and go, and I'm sure the boys will agree, read the flow of the game. Read the flow. Don't just call plays because, this says here it's a 62.75% probability. No. We've already seen it that doesn't work. You need to get in the flow. And like we've discussed when I've been on the show previously, I'm a former defensive player. I played linebacker. Once those plays start going, and we've heard it from the defensive side of the ball many, many times on our opponents, they knew what play was coming because the linguistics and syntax we're using is quite rudimentary, and that's on the coach.
Evan, it's tough to follow up that. And when David says it, and listen, this will be one of 33 times I'll praise David's accent. I just like accents. I took an accent class in college and failed it, miserable. So I always appreciate a good one. He makes it seem a lot less severe than I think you're going to put it. And when you put an Australian accent on it, it's hard to disagree. But Evan, you disagree. You think none of the blame should be on Kevin Stefanski.
Well, I'll start by saying this. I don't think none of the blame is on Kevin. My whole point with when I was talking to you privately is immediately after a loss, Browns fans, Browns Twitter, I know it's Twitter, but Browns fans, it's fire the coach, demote Kevin, get rid of his play calling. And I just don't think it's that extreme after every loss. We don't have to make that big of a conclusion that that's what will fix this issue. I agree with Roger. That was Deshaun's best game of the season by far, and one of his best all-around games, I think, as a Brown. And what I'm seeing that is the problem is player execution. That we won games with DTR, we won games with Flacco, PJ Walker. Not saying it was the prettiest, but we were winning games with those quarterbacks 11 months ago. So I just don't think that Kevin forgot how to call plays or forgot how to coach a team in the last 9 months, where we lose to Daniel Jones and Gardner Minshew, and now we have to get rid of his play calling, to a coordinator who 3 weeks ago we were laughing at ourselves for hiring the guy that Buffalo fired, who's been on fire since they let him go. So it's like we want to demote Kevin, who after coming off of making the playoffs with 4 quarterbacks, and give it to the guy who got kicked out of Buffalo and they've been on fire ever since. It's like I just don't think after every loss we have to make this big conclusion where, okay, fire Kevin, get rid of his play calling. He needs to focus on his timeouts, which I agree, he's always been so with his timeouts, but I just don't think it's that we have to take that big of a jump and think it's going to fix the problem, because we do have a struggling offense, and I don't think that changing play callers 4 weeks in is going to make that offense any better. I think it's just going to delay us from getting better in the future.
Before I let Roger and David respond to that, Evan, I agree that players take a large part of the responsibility. Kevin called up a good play. Amari drops a pass. It's an interception. That's not on Kevin Stefanski. But some of the undisciplined, especially in the offensive line and the penalties, how much of that do you put on Kevin Stefanski in your mind?
I do think it goes back to coaching. Like we discussed on the show this week, Kevin has the ability to sit a guy down for a series or make an example of someone. So I do think, I believe our penalty numbers are getting better in the last couple of weeks, but I do think that does fall on the coach. So when I do say I want to defend Kevin, it's not that I'm absorbing him of any responsibility for penalties or losses or player execution, because again, that could fall on the coach for sitting a guy down or anything like that. So I don't think it's me absolving Kevin of responsibility. I just think most of it should go to the players, because we've seen Amari Cooper catch the passes. We've seen DeJuan Jones block TJ Watt. We've seen Dustin Hopkins make his extra point kicks. I don't think they all forgot how to do that, or Kevin taught them to forget how to do that. I just think it's player execution 95%, and then obviously the discipline stuff falls on the coach in the end.
Fair enough. Roger, you want to respond to that before we get looking ahead towards the Commanders game on Sunday?
Absolutely. So my personal opinion, I believe Kevin Stefanski needs to be held a little bit more accountable for all the confusion. Is it Ken's plays? Is it Kevin's? Is it Kevin's concepts? Is it Ken's? There's nobody really taking direct ownership of it, so we can't point the finger. it's kind of like, who do we scapegoat here? Also, I think all of us collectively, we underestimated the whole staffing change, the new OC, the new run game coordinator, the new tight ends coach, Deuce Staley coming a part of the run game and potentially teaching new things. All those things with the lack of preseason, it exemplifies our slow start right now. And I overlooked it personally myself. I'm not happy about that, but as a fan, you want to be optimistic. You think that we're going to be all cylinders firing, and it just hasn't been the case. But I would like to see Kevin Stefanski take a little bit more accountability for, who's responsible for what. Because then, when we figure that out, we can probably get to a solution quicker than just playing in the middle.
Fair enough. David, your response, and then we'll talk a little Commanders as we get ready for a Week 5 matchup.
I love what Rog says, and I was the same. We were so buoyed by last year's performance with 4 different quarterbacks doing different things. However, the one thing I'll pick up on is 3 of those quarterbacks were very similar in their gameplay. Flacco, DTR, and PJ are very similar, not identical by any stretch of the imagination, but very similar in their gameplay. Deshaun is the outlier, really, in the grand scheme of this thing. And the changing of the coaches, but our chat group here at the Melbourne Browns backers, for 2 years, one of the boys on the group and in the board of the Melbourne Brown backers played professional soccer over in the US and went to college in the US. He has said for 2 years, and a shout out to you, Skeggsy, because I know you'll be watching this morning, it's the training staff. It's the conditioning, strength and conditioning. Look at all the soft tissue injuries that we've got in preseason. Now, we know some of them are roll-ups, rolled ankles, those sorts of things happen. But a lot of it appears to be under-conditioned. You look around the league, and I know it's not a great barometer per se, but it does give you a bit of an inclination on what's going on in other teams when you look at other teams' Instagram pages and the players. And I know they do it for likes and all that sort of stuff, but at least they're showing workouts. I don't really remember a hell of a lot of players on the Browns showing workouts. I saw a lot of holidays overseas. Great, you earned it, you deserve it. But I don't remember the dripping the sweat, all the sorts of stuff outside of Nick squatting 700 pounds. My goodness, that's a good squat. but you know what I mean? So it's a whole overarching thing that we've got going on, and it goes back to one word: culture.
Fair enough. All right, that was our recap of the Raiders' loss. Let's talk a little Commanders, guys. We talked about it on the show today, but Washington's secondary, one of the worst in football. They're the worst third down defense in football. The Browns, on the other hand, the only team in the NFL yet to score 20 points or gain 300 total yards of offense. They're the worst third down offense. So something's got to give here, guys. Roger, you mentioned that Deshaun played his best game of the season against Vegas. Do you expect an even better performance from 4 against this Washington secondary that struggled to slow down even the subpar offenses they faced so far?
Honestly, I do. We can't regress, can we? I hope not. Washington, they're not a very top rated secondary. They actually have pretty low talent compared to even some of the previous years where they're still at the floor of the league in pass defense. We've seen multiple quarterbacks attack Washington through the air, Burrow. So I believe he could. I expect a 200-yard game at the bare minimum. I will say that. We need to right the ship with something like that. 250 would be nice. It is really hard to see our passing game. I know G. Bush had mentioned throughout the week, 300 is the new 250, and I actually wrote down some stats. There's actually 14 quarterbacks now who have had 300-yard games, and another 3 or 4 that are a completion away from getting there. And then last night, obviously, we watched Kirk Cousins throw for 500, and it was levels, digs, comebacks, just nothing. He didn't really take any deep shots at all. It was just, if it wasn't there, he took a sack. But not to talk about Atlanta too much, but the thesis is with the pressure that the Browns line gives up, I believe that we should thrash Washington through the secondary. Hopefully we do.
Yeah, it's crazy. 500 yards seems like a different sport than what we've watched through 4 weeks here in Cleveland. Evan, Do you expect Deshaun to break that? And I can't even believe I'm saying this sentence, but break that 200-yard passing barrier that's been so elusive for him over the last year.
Yeah, I do believe so. I was watching last Sunday. I came away impressed. I mean, I know we're talking baby steps here, but you can see him slowly getting better. I know as Sean showed on the show today, that he left some plays on the field. But I think another week of practice and film, I think he's gonna show another step forward there and get better. And their defensive line has some guys on it, but yeah, once you get past that, I think we're able to take advantage of that. So I don't expect much out of the run game, but I do think Deshaun's going to play at least as good as last week and hopefully better and hit that 200-yard mark.
David, are you making it 3 for 3 on Deshaun, taking that next step forward against Washington?
I want to say yes, I really do, but the execution, we're just not seeing it. And I think back to every time we highlight a deficiency that we're of an opponent, and I think back to even 2019. I know that was a very interesting year with a man who may or may not be built similar to myself, coaching the team, but that's neither here nor there. We went up against a weak Cincinnati team, and they absolutely took us to the woodshed. With the same problem. They had, they were terrible on run defense. They were terrible on third downs. They had a questionable secondary. We just didn't do what we needed to do. I know that Deshaun was essentially, one holding play from Harris last week on hitting the magical 200 with that 82-yard to Cooper. I'm just not convinced. I'd love to be wrong, please. It's a 2 a.m. start for us because we roll into daylight savings as of tomorrow. So it's a 2 a.m. start.
Do you watch the game live if it's a 2 a.m. kick?
I do when it's available and free to air. As I said to you last time I was on the main show, it costs probably nearly $400 to $500 to get the subscription for the international Game Pass. So. And unfortunately, Browns being Browns, we're not centre stage. Now, we might bump up in time depending on who we're playing. But it was really nice on Monday. Sorry, Monday my time. I was getting ready for work and was able to watch the game live while I was getting ready for work because it was a late start out of Las Vegas. So, yeah, we often get up and the boys that work earlier than I do are on the chat, and by the time I get up and roll out of bed and get going, the chat's 150 deep with usually not happy comments. The way we've been playing of late, but on occasion you do get a nice one, and yeah. So look, I'd love to see Deshaun, really rip the pigskin down the field and watch Amari and Jerry actually start to do what that we're paying them to do. It would be just so awesome. And you guys were right in what you said. We go by Twitter. We ride the highs. We take the lows a heck of a lot worse than we ride the highs. And I reckon that's just a trauma of being a Browns fan. As I said to you on the show, Mikey, I've been a Browns fan since the late 80s. I remember Bernie and the transition to Vinny Testaverde, so we've ridden those highs and cried through those lows. So, yeah, no, I'd love to see us win, but, yeah, I just – they're a good team, and that young Daniels, he knows how to pick a defense apart, and that's the one thing I'm worried about is our defense. It bends, but it continually bends, and it doesn't really break, but it's got a point. It's got a tipping point. But yeah,
this is a statement game for the defense. Like, we could talk about the offense as much as we want. Evan, you've been clamoring. We've talked. You've probably sent me more DMs about this defense not being as good as some people want to say it is, more than any individual message I think I've gotten. Like in different ways. You've probably sent that same message 30 times over the 48 games that I've been in Cleveland for, whatever that number is. But it's a statement game for the Browns defense. And I actually think we do a Friday review of UCSS, and I think I did a bad job producing it. I don't think we talked about how important this game is from a defensive standpoint for the Browns. They were picked not just by us here in Cleveland, but the Athletic Football Show. Robert Mays and Derek Clausen did their top 10 defenses entering the season. Browns were number 1. The Ringer NFL Show. Browns were top 2. One of their guys had the Jets number 1 and Browns 2. The other one had Browns 1, Jets 2. it's been a middle of the pack defense. It hasn't been bad, but it hasn't been elite. And while the offense is kind of figuring out its footing still, which is crazy to say as we get into week 5, they needed this defense to be elite. And I don't have a ton of confidence in this offense putting up a 30-point spot against Washington, even against that bad secondary, just because they haven't scored 20. So let's take baby steps. But this defense needs to show up and at least slow down Jayden Daniels in some capacity and prove to everybody that, hey, like last year wasn't a total fluke, because if Daniels cooks them, I think those home road splits and the good bad quarterback splits will be plastered over every social media page imaginable come Monday. Evan, this is right up your alley, so I'll let you start on that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's just such a frustrating defense. I mean, they obviously took advantage of the bad quarterback schedule last year, and like you said, they're a good defense, but they keep getting talked about and rated as this top defense, and I don't see it. I went back and looked at all their games since Jim Schwartz got hired. We've beaten 2 healthy, quality NFL quarterbacks in Lamar Jackson and Brock Purdy, and Lamar put 30 on us, and Brock Purdy, in the most important drive of the game, without Debo or Christian McCaffrey, walked the defense down the field before the missed field goal. So it's like I'm way more worried about the defense this Sunday than Deshaun or the offensive line or anything. I'm terrified of what this guy's going to do to us, because I haven't seen them, let alone consistently, maybe once or twice, play well against a healthy NFL quality quarterback. I just haven't seen it. So, I mean, they're okay, they're good. And last week they made adjustments in the second half, and even against the Giants they did when the offense couldn't pick them up. But it's like, look at the Steelers. They've had bad offenses for the last 5 years, but their defense carries them, and that's what complementary teams do. And we have a defense with enough talent to be able to carry this offense when it's working out its kinks and getting a lineman back healthy. And I haven't seen them do it for a whole game. Like, a half is fine, but we need a full game, especially against a quarterback like this. Like, this isn't, no offense, Mikey, this isn't Daniel Jones. So
no, this is the anti-Daniel Jones. This is a competent quarterback.
Like, we need a full 60 minutes, and I just don't have a lot of confidence that we're going to get that Sunday.
Roger, what's your confidence in this defense heading into this game and matchup against Jayden Daniels?
The Dogs got to come out and show us something to believe in. I stand with Evan. You got to look underneath the microscope at some of these games. We won 11 games last year, but if you look at it, like you said, Brock Purdy, Lamar Jackson. Lamar dropped 30, and as you mentioned, CMC and Debo were out. And you guys said earlier on the show today, it's been nearly a calendar year since we've actually played lights-out defense. I will say I had a small bit of joy when I seen Daniel Jones rip off a 14-play drive against the Cowboys, and I was like, okay, maybe it's not just us. But that being said, I'll ask all three of you. What do you guys think the Browns' defensive identity is right now? Like, what do you think they hang their hat on? Creating turnovers, pressure?
David, you can start this one.
Well, it's not pressure, is it? Because we led a team who had not rushed the ball more than 150 yards in 3 games, rushed 152 on us. And I'm a bit with Jason Lloyd. I'm okay with working and bending, and as I said before, not breaking, working between the 20s. But the fact of the matter is, they're not even getting that stuff. What would our identity be? Miles. That's it. We're hoping Miles gets through. We all know he gets holed. He gets double teamed, triple teamed, quadruple teamed. I mean, the water boy's trying to tie his shoelaces together. Let's be honest. It's Miles, and then if we're lucky, maybe it's JOK and Grant. In the sort of linebacker come secondary, and then maybe if we're lucky, Denzel will do something amazing. Outside of that, I don't know. I genuinely don't know. It doesn't.
Their identity is dancing. It's dancing. That's their identity.
Well, yeah, I was going to put dancing midget, but I'm not that mean.
Yeah, it hasn't been great, Roger. It's a great question to ask. Offensively, I'm not sure they have an identity either. This is you guys watch Game of Thrones?
Nope, I've never seen it.
Well, for people who have seen Game of Thrones, you know what that means. It's a faceless team right now, and they switch. All right, guys, let's get your predictions for Sunday. Evan, start us off. 1-3. Does it become 1-4? Or do the Browns, Deshaun Watson, Kevin Stefanski right the ship, and we have a victory Monday, which will be much better than a eulogy Monday, if not. What are we going to be doing on Monday, Evan?
I'm leaning towards eulogy just because of I can't trust the defense. I think our offense is going to put up some points. I mean, when I say some points, I think we're going to hit 20. I mean, that's how low the bar is. But until I see a full 60 minutes out of this defense against a quality quarterback, I can't pick them to win, especially with our injuries and our offensive problems. Unless Deshaun goes crazy like a full game like that half he had in Baltimore, I don't see how we're going to contain Daniels enough or outscore him. I don't think we're going to outscore him at all. So, yeah, unless the defense plays a full 60 minutes, I'm leaning towards eulogy.
And give me a bold prediction. Good, bad. I mean, it could be a Commander's bold prediction if you want, but we end every fan show with the score and a bold prediction. So,
oh man, let's go with Greg Newsome, 2 picks. Is that bold?
That is very bold. And for the record, if any of these bold predictions hit, we're going to bring you on the show Monday or Tuesday to take a 2-minute victory lap. That goes for David and Roger as well. David, score, who wins, and your bold prediction for Sunday.
Browns 21, Commanders. I really don't like that name. 36.
36. So you have no faith in this defense.
And I don't have any faith in the offense either. I sent you that list the other day when you had a shout out on Twitter. Name the top 5. 2 of them were special teams players. We shouldn't be. It was D-Hop and Corey. I mean, we shouldn't be doing that. And bold prediction. I was actually thinking the same as Ev on the Dancing Man to get a couple of picks, but I'll go with Daniels for 4 touchdowns, no picks, and over 360 yards.
Roger, listen, we have not had a clean sweep in the opposite direction yet since we started doing the Ultimate Cleveland Fan Show. I picked the Commanders, on UCSS today. I just can't imagine this team being 1-4. And I'm 0-4 on picking the games this year. So take that with a grain of salt. I have not gotten a Browns game right. I hope this is the week I'm right because that means a good Monday. Will you make it 2-2, or are you going to go with Evan and David and pick the Commanders in this matchup?
Here we go, Brownies. Here we go.
Ooh, ooh.
Okay, so that was painful to hear, guys. Evan, David, that was rightfully so with your explanations. But bold prediction for the game, I say Browns 28, Commanders 24. It's going to be a high-scoring game. I think both teams are going to move up and down the field. I think both quarterbacks will both throw interceptions. I think Jayden Daniels will throw for more yards than Deshaun Watson, honestly. I'm looking at about 250 in the air for Deshaun. And my biggest bold prediction of the game, though, JOK, 2 sacks and a forced fumble. That's gonna change the game. And I'm going against Vegas because Vegas has the Commanders, as a favorite. So yeah, and the public is all over that. So I'm gonna fade the public, roll with the hometown dogs, and it all starts with 4.
It does. It's crazy. When I told Steve Becker I wanted to do a fan show, so listen, there's some crazy Brown fans out there. I mean that in a good way, like crazy passionate. And in the last 2 weeks, we have somehow found the 3 Browns fans that had already sold their stock on the future of this season. Doesn't say you can't buy it back, but we had Quan last week pick the Raiders, and he was correct. We have Evan and David pick the Commanders. Hopefully you guys are wrong, but we wanted the Ultimate Cleveland Fan Show, and somehow, and kudos to me for picking the right email addresses to respond to on any given week, I have found the most level-headed, unbiased, Browns fans out there so far. Evan, where can people find you on Twitter if they want to follow along for your takes and hear you complain about this defense for another week?
Yeah, my Twitter name is my name right here at e.light this way. I'm used to a camera. E.light right there.
Beautiful. David, what's your Twitter handle? And I don't think anyone's going to find you on the streets because you live in Melbourne about, 36 hours across the globe. But if they want to follow you on Twitter, the tweets don't read with the same accent that you bring in person. But where can they find you?
I'll probably tag it in because it's a long one. It's at Grumpy Lifting Medic. It's GRMPYLIFTN Medic. It's an odd one, I know, but it's when I retired from football, I went into powerlifting, and obviously my job as a paramedic, and kind of I'm known to be a little bit surly from time to time. So
Oh, you're a Browns fan. So
I'm a Browns fan, exactly right. And so I merged them all together. And trust me, I am now going to have to take an antacid because I did predict against the beloved Brownies, and it did hurt. It really did. But I think we can all agree there's enough there to justify our selections for the Red Hogs, the Commanders, the Washington football team, whatever you want to call them this week.
And Roger, where can the people find you?
In the YouTube live chat. In the YouTube live chat. I am not on X.
Smart
Hey,
man.
what it is. It's not on X. Probably better for all of us. Trust me. It's there's some good things on Twitter, and there's some absolutely miserable, terrible people on there as well. So, guys, appreciate you guys for joining us here on the first ever live Ultimate Fan Show Browns Commanders edition. We hope that myself and Roger are right. We hope Evan and David are wrong, but nevertheless, we appreciate you guys for tuning in and joining us today. We'll see you on Monday, hopefully for a victory celebration. If not, blame Evan and David, not me and Roger. We'll see y'all later.
Cheers, blokes.
Cheers.